Welcome. In Module 7, we're going to talk about mobile technologies and M-learning, mobile learning. It's still a rather new avenue within e-learning and distance learning. And so, the landscape's wide open. Folks are looking at a variety of applications of using mobile technologies. One of the first things to clarify is that M-learning has been defined in a couple of different ways. One is that mobile learning inherently is what we call any kind of learning that we can pick up devices, move around, and it's not place dependent. Meaning I could use a laptop and a Wi-Fi hookup somewhere else, and that would qualify as mobile learning. Other folks in the discourse have attributed mobile learning specifically to mobile devices that are using telephone-based data plans and mobile operating systems, and therefore fall more in the realm of the smartphones. And that's going to be the approach that I take. We're going to look more sort of at the traditional mobile devices, at the phones. So let's go to the next slide. Right now in the mobile landscape, there are two sort of main types of phones. One is the feature phone. This has text messaging, camera, Bluetooth, and that basic web access listed there is critical as well. There is access to the web on the phone, but it's quite rudimentary. And usually these phones don't come with full data plans themselves because of sort of the limited access to the web that these phones can receive. The other phone, and this is really what's opening up the mobile landscape, the other phone type is the smartphone. Um, by advanced connectivity and data access, not only can you access a data plan, and right now sort of the common data plan that you can access is 3G, and they're going to be moving up into 4G in the next few years. But also these phones usually can access wireless networks. So, if you're on the road, you can use your phone's data plan. If you're in an office where there's a Wi-Fi connection that might be faster than your 3G data plan that comes with the phone, then you can access wireless networks. This gives a variety of ways to access data and speed up the capability of your smartphone's access. The other critical app in my mind is the full web access. Each of these smartphones, depending on what platform you're using, uses a different web browser, but utilizing this browser you can access basically any web page that's on the internet. That doesn't mean that web pages have been made specifically for mobile devices, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, the differentiation between mobile pages and accessing a regular site using a mobile device. Smartphones these days use applications or apps, and actually smartphone vendors will really, tout their apps. Both iPhone, Android, are really app heavy, and using that as a way to capture interest in the devices themselves. Apps, you can access multimedia, take pictures, take videos, watch YouTube, etc. Social media apps are another big one. Another differentiation for a smartphone is that it runs a complete operating system, meaning that basically this is a lightweight computer. It's unlike the feature phone, which really has small capability as far as computing. These lightweight operating systems like iPhone OS or Android, are quite robust. And then every time one of these new phones comes out, they have more memory, bigger processors. So the difference between feature phones and smartphones. Let's talk a little bit about accessing mobile in the U.S. The first stat, 99% of Americans live in areas where wireless service is available. And what this means is not necessarily phones, although that's definitely included here. Not only phone access, but also access to data, whether that's the old edge data access or whether it's the newer 3G or 4G as that data rolls out. The next one's kind of shocking. Almost 30% or 30% of the households have dropped their landlines, and that's projected to continue to increase. And so folks have become more and more dependent on their mobile devices, and that definitely is playing a factor in M learning. 91% of folks in the U.S. Have mobile access, and I think that this is largely more that feature phone, meaning that 91% of Americans have mobile phone access in their lives. It's quite a high number. This next slide shows how folks are accessing the internet, with the green line being traditional desktop internet access via your computer or your laptop, using your wireless network, your DSL, your cable, your dial-up. And currently, more users are accessing the internet via their desktop. But this yellow line shows the trend that folks are accessing the internet via their mobile devices. And if you look at that circle there, around 2013, 2014, it's projected that more folks will be accessing the internet via their mobile devices than they do via their desktop. And so what I'm trying to do here is demonstrate that as access of the mobile internet and utilization of mobile devices increases, the conversations around mobile technologies, their implications in instructional design and mobile learning are going to increase. So it's time to, if you're going to be working in instructional design, you need to keep an eye on mobile. This next slide here shows the decline in the use of feature phones, the blue line there, and the increase of smartphones. And this projection is that middle to late 2011, there's going to be sort of equal use of smartphones and feature phones. I think this is largely because the smartphones have come down in cost, and the packages, the data packages, are also coming down in cost. So as they become more accessible, via cost, I think folks will move more towards the smartphone choice. That really, in my mind, is critical for M learning to take off, because it's quite difficult to talk about mobile learning utilizing the simple feature phone. We'll just look at this slide quickly. This shows the different platforms that are available. RIM, R-I-M, is BlackBerry, which holds the largest share in the market right now, followed by Apple and iPhone, and then Google, Android, Microsoft, and Palm. Now, I've talked specifically about phones, but we also have to keep an eye on tablet technology. The reason that tablets are considered mobile devices is because they're utilizing the mobile operating systems, meaning that the iPad is running basically the same operating system as the iPhone. While there are some features that you can access only on the iPad, the root platform that it's running on is the same between the iPhone and the iPad, and so that really is a demarcation of what's a mobile device and what's not a mobile device. The same goes for the Google tablet, which is coming out later this month. It also runs Android, just like the Google phone does. Microsoft is projected to come out with their tablet a little later next year, and so the tablets from the different vendors also should be considered mobile devices. These are much more exciting when considering mobile learning, because they do enable, in my mind, sort of a higher fidelity kind of access. The iPad here is almost 10 by 8 inches. You can read and interact and navigate much better in a web environment and a little bit larger device than the phones. But in general, instructional design around phone platforms need to take into consideration the limitations of navigation. This is the end of the first part of the mobile discussion. Please watch part 2, and we'll talk about different kinds of access, and we'll go more in depth into mobile learning. Thanks.